Hello everyone, loves of my lives. It's me, Jeshua, in case you were wondering. I hope you're all doing well. Sorry about the stretching. You know, if anyone knows me, then you will be aware that by reputation, I'm always notoriously on time. So also today I, was in the dressing room hours early, of course, getting ready to come in here, and you get called, then they tell you, oh, it's gonna only be half an hour, Yeshua, don't worry about it. 2-3 hours later, I'm done creating some concerts and things like that. I've fallen asleep, napped a bit, drifted off into oblivion, and then all of a sudden it's, Yeshua, you're on in 10. And I'm like, what, 10 minutes? No, 10 seconds. And so here I am, completely unprepared. It's good to see you all. Very good to see you all. I think the last 2 times I was here, I presented both the breaking point and the golden sun. 2 pieces that left me a little bit worried, as you might remember, as to how everyone would do with everything that was going to come next. I know that what we see here on this board today about infinometry already was a lot to process, to get your head around, if not your heart. But after that, we got into the horizon and the surface and the fabric of reality. And I get that it's simple to come to the conclusion that it's all 144. It's easy to pass the test, isn't it? What's the outcome? 144, 1.44, 14.4. 144,000, all correct. Very easy, but what does that mean? What does that mean for the reality that you're in, the experience that you're having here? That's quite a lot to handle. And then after those pieces, we get Ra with the entry to the great passage. That already, the word alone triggers all sorts of things. Passage. Yes, from one point to the next, from one world to the next. But, passage also sort of subconsciously implies, passing, moving on, literally moving on from one world to the next. And that comes with a lot of fear, doesn't it? That's why I'm here today, to enlarge that fear and to make it so much worse. Or maybe if I fail in my mission, I might end up doing the opposite and help you out a little bit. But the great passage that came with a lot of subconscious trauma, if you will, and that then gets followed by the great conduit, which you later on then hear is not even in this reality at all, but behind you, 45 degrees up. Whatever the divinity that means. And then you come, to yet another step on the exploration, and you end up at this great first gateway. Maybe a gateway that, since the entire time that I have been doing my work with humanity, I have been speaking of. For me, that gateway is simple. That black hole is simple. It's not scary at all. It's simply the akene. It's simply the heart space. It is true, of course, what is said, that everything you see, the literal surface of your entire reality, from your body to everything that surrounds you, ultimately is a black hole at heart. We're going to go way deeper into that. I'm going to explain that in simple terms of 2,000 years ago. which, by the way, worked better sometimes than the understanding that is given these days, I think. But anyway, so yes, while it is true that everything you see, every particle known to you in creation, from the atom to the electron to the photon to the quark to all of these things, at heart, even to the physical cells of your body, at heart, have a black hole if you go deep enough. And it's been, of course, explained why that is, metaphysically anyway. It's been explained that before these particles manifest in this reality, at their core, they have the spiral of light, of Ich. And in light, of course, you have all the other elements wrapped up in it. And that is at the heart of a particle, which is why there is no distance between the particle in the world of shape and light, for instance. You know, that's why you, in the world of shape, don't have a speed of light, because there's no speed that light is away from you at and trying to get to you at. There's nothing like that. It is just at the heart of everything. And the same, it goes with gravity, of course. You know, that is also at the heart of the particle. So there is no real experience of possibility to fall or fly. That is all just part of the normal integration of things. And so I mean, for instance, we can talk about, I know that so far only gravity and electricity, for instance, have been spoken about. But if you look, for instance, at the element of Ach, the element of flow, the element of water, if it manifests, which comes from the heart space, that seen through the same lens of particles splitting up in this theory of everything that has been given to you, ultimately is the manifestation of plasma and ultimately water in this universe. You know, so it actually is quite easy to understand these things if you really think about it. But, you know, there you are with all of these things floating around and flowing around your head. It can get a little complicated and it can get a little confusing. I've also said in the breaking point that there would be a lot of people that would feel that this would not really be for them for that reason. Because the Sankara pathway and later on the Vabhada pathway confronts you with all of these things. And as I said, since the beginning, I've been speaking to humanity, and I don't just mean 2007 here in the Imzaia material. I'm talking a bit further away, you know, and maybe surprising to you, but even 2,000 years ago we were discussing things such as quantum physics and the theory of everything. We were already talking about these things. And again, we were using very simple terms to explain them. I hope that today I can help you bring that a little bit in this different setting that we're exploring to present. So yes, the first gateway, the world between form and shape. And it is a whole world, it's not just a passage. It is an entire world in between the actual world of form and arriving in the world of shape. That surface, that event horizon, comes with its own sense of consciousness and its own sense of beingness, which also is part of you. And as you are traveling through that, you are confronted with, I think it might have even been mentioned before, but with the heaviness and the dullness and the physical limitations of the world of form. So a lot of people, when they begin exploring this, when they begin to think about taking that step back, that everyone has been talking about, when they truly begin to focus on the fact that form, everything you know and your entire life and your body and everything, the physical world itself, that may not be the original template, that may not be the original and therefore also only reality, the confrontation can hit like a ton of bricks. And usually it does, for a lot of people at least, through the reemergence, if you will, of tons of pre-existing conditions, whether they are physical or mental or emotional or psychological. All of these things have a tendency to come back to the surface for those that are exploring the distinction between these two worlds. And a lot of people here and a lot of people out there have also been indicating that there's a lot of physical stuff and mental stuff and emotional stuff that's been coming up, a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, a lot of belief systems, ideas and thoughts that are easily used, also physical stuff, easily used to shift your focus away from what you're actually doing, to move your focus right into that world of form again, but not in a way that you are observing it and experiencing it, but in a way that you're, stuck in it, that actually traps you back into the box of vibration and frequency and all of those niceties. And it then also can easily make you feel that things like this here on this board is complex. But again, it isn't complex at all, of course. Because I think that what a lot of people already have an issue with is to even consider why they would consider the things that we discuss and that are on this board. And that, of course, comes with the consideration of the fact, just like what I said about the world of form, that you are currently not in your home base reality, in your baseline reality, that which some of the more cosmic sisters have been calling homeworld, and brothers have been calling homeworld indeed, the baseline reality. Now, that is an original concept that you must already embrace, and there is no proof for that, of course, so that proof must come from within. Those that are ready to understand this, like yourselves and many out there, come to this conclusion because of a deep knowing, a deep longing even, if it is not properly balanced, if you will, for the world that they originally hail from. And what sort of a world is that? We call it Honomeia, as you know, and much like your more advanced scientists and thinkers have been postulating over recent years, yes, it is true that you are in a simulation. You are in what we call an Ekaraia. And yes, it is true that that simulation is being run by a society, a civilization that is much more advanced than this one. In other words, you could say that it is run by the future of this very civilization that you are now experiencing. Only from the perspective of that baseline reality, the reason why creations such as this happen and you then entertain yourselves in is because that baseline reality, Honomeia, our home, has been in the service to whole perspective for such an enormously long time, that there literally is no memory left of a service to self or service to others based reality from which we originally hailed. Everything you see here and now in this world that you sit in is a proper replica of the origins from which our metaphysical world, Honomea, once hailed. It is why Gaia and others have always told you that infinity hails from the finite. And that is also why beings have the capacity to move from finite into infinite status. So, what you have here then is ultimately, as has been shared many times, a type of work of art. It is what you would call an installation, an experience of sorts. And for many, this type of experience is entered into for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of exploration, to come and see what it was like before these types of choices, which are so normal for our baseline society, were made. So for many people, it is just a form of entertainment, a type of museum of the grand illusions, if you will. But for people or beings like yourselves, and for many that connect to these words, it is more than entertainment, because even in our baseline reality, there is the study of ascension. There is the study of the Pah. There is the journey towards the one and whole divine infinite creator. That continues even though the beginning point is so far away that it has to be simulated in order to be remembered. And for many that are young in our society, they come here entertainment oriented in order to experience why the choices we made as a society are so important. It is easy to force someone in here for a day, and when they come out after watching your television for one night, they'll know. But I digress. I digress. These realities are visited by the young. They are also visited for basic entertainment reasons, and they are visited for metaphysical reasons for those students on the Pah who are choosing to go deeper into the clearing of Savok. And that is exactly what you have been doing in this early phase of the Ekaraia that you have found yourself in until this recent transformation began. Now, everything that you have been learning here about the metaphysical workings of the song of creation and the seeds of creation and reciprocity and that sort of thing, everything about sankhara, about the permanent states, about the immutable elements, everything that has been a part of the study of the Pah is not only interesting for those students that find themselves here inside of these ancient Ekaraias, it is also the way everything works as a creator in home-based reality. That is why recently I believe that one of the seven sisters referred to the Kakra system and to the workings of the Parana flow and the Sankhara flow back upwards and the permutations and the permanent states ultimately as the workings of the human soul. Because, and it is also why it's been referred to as the lifeblood of the creator, depending on the drama levels of those that were speaking with you at the time. because it is how things work. So that also means that manifesting here and creating reality here is ultimately as easy as creating reality there. And these installations, these ancient artworks, these Ekaraias, are simple creations that you also, as you enter them, are responsible for creating and co-creating as much as you create your body in here, particle by particle. And as much as you create anything in home base reality. You do it in exactly the same way. The only thing that is completely missing from home base reality is the concept of the vibrational world and the world of matter and frequency and energy. So in other words, everything that has been tackled in the earlier study of vibration. That stuff is important here. Everything that the study of the Pah has been tackling, including, of course, the introduction in the study of vibration of the chakra system, the akane, all of that sort of thing, is important also in Honomea, in home base reality. And it is not something, of course, that you are here to learn. It is something that you use normally over there. And I'm telling you all of this because I want you to understand really what, first of all, the ease and grace is with which you create these things and anything else. And to do so, you must really understand the shape of creation itself. The shape of the flow of prana, the shape of the flow of sankhara, the shape of every particle or every frequency known in existence, both here and also out in home base reality. And it's not going to surprise you, of course, because it's right here on the board. It is the infinity sign. So in other words, with the same simplicity as you breathe here and as you speak a thought into physical reality here, you have an innate ability as a creator to invoke that state, to invoke the flow of the infinity sign. And you have that innate ability there as much as you do here. You just have to really close your eyes and you just have to start focusing on that shape, and some people even, play with it at the beginning by closing their eyes and even moving, their eyes behind their closed eyes for a little bit in that shape, and you'll immediately see it appear. It manifests because it is. It is the shape of all things. So whether you are creating a holographic reality like these Ekaraias from the perspective of the world of shape, of the home base reality, or you're creating another type of piece of art, or you're creating any type of thing that you wish to create, a building, whatever it is, an egg, whatever it is, you begin with that shape because it is the flow of your being itself. Now, so what happens then is as you generate that shape for any particle, anything known, whether it is the creation of a universe, an entire universe like this, just that shape. Cup of coffee, that shape too. Very energy efficient, right? It's always the same size because it has no size in dimension, and it is always the same shape, and it is always based on the same thing, which is parana, which is sankhara. Sankhara ultimately is an organized version of parana. I guess you get that, right? So let's say that you want to manifest anything, such as entry into this reality or anything in this reality. You generate that shape, right? You just close your eyes and you do that. And you find these raw points here on the edges of the shape, which are just sort of more like trajectories, and you push your consciousness, that's as easy as you can say it, through those points. You just push your consciousness through those points. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you push yourself into the points per se. You do that if you want to enter into an Ekaraia, yes. But if you want to manifest anything, once the shape of all things appears in front of you, you push your consciousness into it to give it the structure, the instructions that you wish to give it. So in that moment, as you know from this diagram here, in the case of these Ekaraias, you then begin the concept of permutations. Because what is the parana that everything is made of? What is the design, the substance of what you invoke when you invoke the shape of all things? It is, of course, as you have been bored to death with, the permanent states. The permanent states are things that you can experience here, as simple as I can say it, that are permanent. You can experience this sweater, but it's not permanent. Maybe it can be permanent in the sense that it will survive you if you happen to kill yourself in your sweater. But then still, that sweater will eventually pass from the earth in the shape it is in. So it is not a permanent thing. It is made of permanent things, that's different. But it in itself is not a permanent state. And neither is the chair, neither is the house, neither is air, neither is your body. There's nothing in matter, nothing in vibration, nothing in the energetic world that is permanent. The only thing that is not quite in the material world, but it is what you use to observe the material world with, and that is your consciousness. And what does your consciousness use to observe and create reality with? Shall we do it one more time? Love, joy, freedom, truth, life, gratitude, grace, and well-being. And then the Dalin terms you can look up on our website, I guess. Those are the only things that survive the world of form. The only things that are permanent states that have the ability to affect reality and other expressions of consciousness long after your physical form is gone. And think of the passion, for instance, that it requires to make this video now for the being that is lending us this body in order to do it. And the passion that goes into all the work that everyone that is here today does to make these videos happen. Just think about that. Those are permanent states. And yet you're expressing these permanent states through your body. You're doing it from a sense of love for humanity. That's why this is being made. And that leads to a sense of joy, the hope that there will be a change in the beings that experience, that they will find freedom, that they will find truth, that they will hit the center of their life, that they will enter into gratitude because they have found themselves, that they will begin expressing themselves in a state of grace, and that will lead to the well-being that will be required for them to enter into the belly to discover their seeds of creation, that which brought them here to begin with, to explore. Those things are permanent. And therefore, you could have somebody, long after these bodies would be gone, watching this right now, and being invoked, inspirited by the same states, the same permanent states that made you all want to do this work. For instance, it is from that perspective that you can see very easily that which is permanent and that which isn't. And of course you could come and you could say, well, Jeshua, passion, you just mentioned passion. Well, that is not a permanent state because that's not one of the 8. No, but all of those, of course, have levels of manifestation, if you will, that are, you could call sub-feelings, that are born from those states and to which these expressions, such as passion, can be rolled back to. But you cannot do that with this sweater. I mean, you can do it with a sweater you gave somebody because you love them, yes? But then it's the love that is the permanent state, not the sweater. Now, I know that sounds idiotically simple, but it is ultimately that which creates the world of shape. And everything else is the world of form. So, when you generate these infinite flows, these seeds of creation, this invocation of the song of the permanent states itself, you don't do it with those permanent states alone. You've also been told that there is such a thing as the spiral of the immutable elements. Now, and I'm not going to begin repeating all of that deeply again, because you have recently heard it, I believe, yet again. But that spiral of everything that ultimately is used by the geometries that exist in this world to manifest the forms that you see, you know, the so-called earth and the light and the fire and the air and the water, all of these things that create your periodic table, etc. All of that exists in the metaphysical realm, as you know, as a sense of grounding and a sense of flow and a sense of breath and a sense of light itself. That spiral is, by default, at the heart of those infinity signs, waiting to open up, waiting to unfold from what you then consider the heart space, which is also the heart space of the infinite particle, the seed of creation, the shape of all things, that which you, without thinking, invoke in home-based reality as well as here. It's just that you do different things with it here altogether. So, as that exists, at the same time, inside of the heart of the particle waiting to unfold, while the particle itself is made up of the permanent states that, as you know, you permutate, and permutate can be a bit of a complicated word that makes people skip YouTube videos that are very important to watch. But permutation is really, as many of course know, nothing else than calculation, than the progression of the running through love, joy, freedom, truth, life, gratitude, grace, well-being, love, just like the musical notes on musical scales, etc. Just on and on and on, round and round and round, within that, at the heart, every single time, these elements wrapped up in the spiral that is light. So, as you just generate these just naturally by default, even now as you're sitting here, the way you are understanding my words, as you are sitting here, or as you're listening on your devices, are sound waves, right? That's how it works here. So those sound waves, just like anything else, are created by this particle that I'm describing. And you're creating those particles all the time to generate the reality known as sound waves, and the reality known as an ear, and an inner ear, and a so-called brain, and a language, and everything, to generate this reality in which we are experiencing this. So the permutations sort of happen, you could argue, in a randomized way, as it keeps rotating through love, joy, freedom, as you know, those that understand Dalin somewhat, through Da, Ba, Va. And then, as the permutations occur, the spiral, as the choice for manifestation is chosen by the consciousness, by you, the spiral inside of the heart of the particle, or also inside of the heart of you, unfolds and settles, depending on the permutation, on an Ich, light, on an Ach, an an O, water, air, earth, or, seen from metaphysical perspectives once again, grounding, flow, breath, and light. And as it does that, it settles on the Ich, the Ach, the O, or the and therefore a particle of love that is permutating into the manifestation of reality that starts out as a Da particle that is going to become a light-based particle in physical reality, or in the reality in home base that you are going to manifest, will be infused with Ich. And so it will become, from a Da, a Di particle, or a Da Ich, or an I-Da particle. And that then goes down into the Lin point, that's part of the permutation, still in a state of infinometry, because whatever shape, Da, Di, I-Da, Da, Ich, Ba, Bi, Bo, Beep, Boop, Bop, whatever state it goes into the Lin point in with, it is still in a state of infinometry. So it will not have taken on a specific shape yet. It will still simply be that flow, but infused, ready to awaken. And from the Lin particle, the Lin point, it will forever remain there, by the way. It will never actually enter this reality, because it can't, just like you can't really enter this reality because it isn't real. So it stays there technically, just like a movie being projected, and using the tachyonic tube system that you have been told about by Lemoya, the sprinklers here. Using that system, the consciousness through the Lin point will now project using light, Ich, or using the element of grounding, Och, or using the element, the others, all of those, will be used to project it into the field of Lavat. When it does that, it is that projection that turns it from infinometry to geometry. Triangles and squares and pentacles. And that is the sort of stuff you can invert and become Illuminati with. End of talk for today. No, but it turns it into geometry. So this one point of infinometry that has been infused with something, with the E or the A or any of those things, let's say love infused with light, can now be projected through light into the field of Lavat, where it will, let's say, become a triangular geometry, let's say, based on the fact that it is a light-based particle. It cannot go deeper than a three-dimensional geometry, such as a triangle, but let's forget about that. That's not so important right now. But that is the truth. And at that point, that geometry can then link with other geometries, but it's virtual at that point, because it's just being projected from the Lin point. The Lin point, which is still within your consciousness, and always will be. This whole thing is within your consciousness, and always will be. And anything you will manifest in homeworld, baseline reality, is within your consciousness and always will be. How else could it be? Because consciousness is the baseline. And it is infinite, just like the things it creates, the baseline particles it creates. They will eventually, those virtual geometries will hook up. You know, they have an app and then they go on the app and they hook up with each other if they match, you know. And they will become, I don't know, a sun. Or they will become, I don't know, this little particle of skin here in this finger. Or I don't know, they'll become the thought that you are having right now. Or there's somebody here with a wound on their leg. They could become the wound on the leg. They could become the experience of the wound. They could become the instrumental moment in which the wound happens. All of that. But they can also become an inspiration, something an artist thinks about. They can also become a moment between two friends or two lovers when they meet for the first time. They can also become the moon or the stars. They can become this entire reality itself as you are doing that. As they are pushed, and that is the recent bit of information, as they are pushed through this Lin point, they're basically nowhere further away from you than the 144. Now that is not distance, nor is it duration. It is both at the same time. And no, I don't have a special word for it. It is also the surface of the reality. It is all those things that have been explained in that piece. But they will always be in that position. Now, the important thing, however, is that this field of Lavat that we talk about, that surface that they are pushed through, is ultimately the surface, the event horizon of the black holes that you see in this reality as the macroscopic objects in the sky that have been detected with your satellites and all that nonsense, as well as being at the heart of every particle known to existence. All right? So you could ultimately say that everything that is being shown here in this overview is ultimately all happening simply here at the heart of this infinity particle. Right? It's all just happening in there. Now, as it gets pushed through this point, through the surface, into the world of geometry, and ultimately into the world of matter, you've also been told that as part of the virtual projection into the reality, the particle that was once whole now splits from its core. Technically, it doesn't really split from its core. It's more that the core opens up, spirals out into a blossoming, right? That's what happens then. And locks into position ich, ah, or o. That is ultimately what happens. And in that separated position, it now is going to move into this reality that you're in, that you're manifesting. Now, you know that this reality and everything that manifests in this reality is ultimately a black hole at heart. So then you also know that everything that is an infinity particle in the world of shape on this side of reality is a black hole on this side of reality, right? That's what you've been told. So that means that every single particle, even though if you were to look deep enough, you would only see the black hole, also still has the energy of this infinity flow around it. Only here, in the third dimensional reality, it cannot be observed. It is in a state of early plasma. Plasma which cannot be observed yet, but it can easily be pushed into observation, as we will come to maybe later or at another time. So then, as it is now in this reality, turned into geometry, but at the heart of that one particle that has now become three particles of geometry to form that triangle that we were talking about earlier, right? That da-I or I-da or D particle. That particle, which has now virtually expressed itself in three different points, each of these points is at heart a black hole. And each of those points, therefore, has a force, you could call it radiation, coming out of that black hole, whether it is a macroscopic one hanging in the sky or whether it is all of these tiny little black holes here, that has a force coming out of it that is still moving in this trajectory. And it is that force that pushes the particle itself and the heart of the particle away from one another in this direction and in this direction. Yeah? And as you were just told in the theory of everything piece, depending on the distance at which the particle is traveling, so when it is here and here, then it has a certain distance and a duration, right? If it is here and here, it has another distance and a duration. And that distance between the heart of the particle and the particle itself is ultimately every state of reality that you can experience here. From the Newtonian physics that you adhere to with your brain, to the quantum world, to anything that you can possibly imagine in science, such as string theory, which is a complete made-up concept, but it exists because it is imagined. But also every religion, also every metaphysical explanation, such as Socrates or Plato or whatever it is, and also every single thought or action or expression of yourself and lifetime that you can possibly experience, all neatly organized on this particular, what you could consider a sort of sinus flow. And of course, copied exactly on the way back in as it collapses back into the heart of the black hole. You see? So this goes for reality itself from the perspective of honomeia, home-based reality, but it also goes for every single particle. So every particle of matter, every photon, every quark, every atom, every skin cell, everything, and also at the larger heart of reality, the heart of a chair, not just the heart of the particles of the chair, the heart of this whiteboard, everything as a concept has a heart, has a core, and at that core, that original black hole that is the manifestation of infinometry that you started with still exists. And the flow of that infinometry still exists. And whatever you have manifested must now adhere to the flow of that infinometry as geometrical particles even. Go figure. But so that means that you could technically, as you begin retreating, taking that step back into the world of shape, it means that you will begin to observe reality first like that. It's not the Matrix where you begin to see the code and you can be all Neo about it. It's a bit more chaotic than that, but it is made up of a type of string, if you will, but the string is in this shape. So you will begin to see a white, golden-esque environment, all made up of this, all made up of these strings. And one of the mistakes you could make is that you could think that because certain particles on the skin or on the fabric of this outfit, for instance, versus the black hole that is hanging somewhere in the sky eating entire solar systems, that one might have an enormous flow of infinometry compared to these. And that is not right either. It is not because you're dealing with a microscopic black hole that you are also dealing with a microscopic infinometry flow around that black hole this way, because as we said, the original infinometry particle has no size. It has not yet any distance nor duration. It is permanent. So that is initially what will begin to happen when you allow yourself to step through that surface. And what ultimately is stepping through that surface? It is the recalling. You remember in 2008 or something, Katumi saying you have a hole in your heart and in your head and in your belly, or you have a hole. I can't do his voice, but you know what I mean, right? Well, that's what he's talking about. The recalling, what you're doing when you step backwards, not permanently, but when you remember that as an infinometrical being, as a geometrical, infinometrical creator, that you have the ability to step back, that you don't come in here and you cannot take off your VR set. You know, everyone is like, oh, it's so bad in here. No, you can come in and out all the time, you know? Maybe at the early levels that wasn't so easy to do, and only those that were really meek had the ability to do that had not built up any karma or all of that heaviness surrounding form has continued to have the ability to do that. But now, everyone, once again, always and forever, has the ability to do this, to take that step back and to also step back forward. It's really that simple. Now, as we were saying, when you take that step back through that event horizon, through that surface, these particles that was, for instance, a Da here, a permanent state of love, here somewhere moving, back like here somewhere moving on this part of the infinitometry, and its core, its spiral, made up of E, of light for instance, moving here at the same distance of the black hole in opposite trajectories, moving back to the same point, that movement will complete. So if you can imagine yourself as you step into the world of form, and all of these infinity particles that you are creating automatically simply sort of burst forth, like this way and that way, and you create all of this, and here you exist, and as you step back, it just comes back in. It's the in-breath, it just comes back in. And it goes like, it's really like that. Sound effects and all. Yeah, I don't get paid for this, you know. All comes for free. So anyway, that is what happens. That is how you create reality all the time, whether you are in here or not. And it is what will happen when you step back. You do not lose anything. You take it all with you, and you express it all again as you step back in here. Because the configuration of the geometrical expression that you have done through the line point still exists. It's like, you know, pausing a computer game. And when you do step back, like we've said before, then as you go through this sort of, and it's quite beautiful, you know, you go through this world, this golden pattern of infinity backed with white, and you're out of it. And all of a sudden, it's in front of you. And as has been explained, as you step back a bit further, you're now extremely close to the artwork. As you step back further, you'll see that this area that you call your reality is stacked up, down, left, right, all with various versions, initially of alternate realities of your same lifetime playing out, and eventually dispersing into actual other lifetimes. And they're not like computer screens or anything, they really are realities that you can step into and place your consciousness in. And that's fun for the kids. But of course, what is interesting for you is when you take this step back, is that you can also turn around, like has been said. And then you enter white space. And white space, as you know, others have tried to explain to you, is the concept of space no longer entangled with the concept of time. It is the energy of time and space as it exists within the conduit, the 45-degree angled conduit, which is ultimately these, you know, tachyonic portals in and out of here, between the surface of this reality made up of black holes that are radiating all of this stuff that I've now explained and come back into it, and the rest of the manifestation model that we are describing here. So that white space, you know, as you step back and you see all of these various realities, you turn around and you are in white space. Now, why is that space white? I think people have tried to explain it, but it seems like it hasn't hit home. It is white, unlike the space here, which is black and has to be lit up by light in order for you to observe it, just like there has to be motion in order for you to be able to observe time in here. That space here is black because the light has been separated from it in the way we've explained it, and that light is on its way back to the heart of that particle, right? And what you see here, depending on where the particle is along this trajectory, that determines, hey scientists, your speed of light. It's really that simple. It's why in the quantum realm, the effects of electricity and gravity and plasma, there's still a fourth, but that'll be for somebody else to talk about that, are extremely minimal so as to be basically completely non-existent. You're not going to get an electrical shock in the quantum realm, and you're not going to fall off a cliff in the quantum realm, because light and grounding have just become separated from the heart of the core of the particle. And therefore, the distance in time and the duration in space between them is minimal, basically non-existent, just enough for there to be a realm to begin with. That's why prices in the quantum realm are so cheap when you're looking for something to rent in here. But as the particle continues to be further pushed away from its core, you begin to have effects such as electricity, such as gravity, such as plasma, and the fourth one that somebody else is going to be speaking about next time or so, that begin to impact the type of physics that you are experiencing. So here in the quantum realm, no electricity impact, no gravity, but here somewhere in the Newtonian realm of physics, where you have electricity, gravity, electromagnetics, the great force, the small force, the weak force, all of those things, they make up the perfect conditions for a universe of this type of exploration to exist. But they're all part of the same model. They're all part of the same journey of that one singular particle. And as I've said, that's the same for any thought and any action, any choice, and any lifetime you can possibly experience here or express out there in home base reality. Yeah. So that's pretty much how it goes, folks. It's pretty simple if you think about it. And yet, as you have entered the great forgetting as you did, and as you are now awakening yourselves from that, we come back to what I said at the beginning of this piece. Now that you are confronted with form, with its limitations, and with everything that it is, now you're getting hit by the bricks of it. Now you're getting hit by the heaviness of it, by the burden of it. But do remember that the only reason you are hit as a burden, as an intensity, as physical, emotional, mental, psychological sensations, as you prepare yourself to take this step back, is because you still carry karma. It's because there are still things about this world of form which you consider more permanent than they truly are. We spoke earlier about plasma. as you exist purely as a shape, and everything in baseline reality does, which means no predetermination, no binding structures of any kind, etc. And as you prepare to manifest yourself in here simply from the perspective of experience, for instance, you will eventually become visible as plasma. This is because plasma is the element. It is an element of flow which will eventually turn light, which is a particle which is ever present and therefore not adherent to a flow of time, into a type of particle that will be adherent to a flow of time and space. So plasma is light, but responding to the conditions of duration and distance. You see, in space and time. That is the difference. And ultimately, when you see the manifestation of a light body, or when you see a master being like those guys in the Himalayas, you know, manifesting food for their guests right in front of them, or drink, or anything, that is the movement of Ich, of light, into plasma, using the same techniques we are talking about here. But that is the same for anything you do and anything you manifest. So, as you stand there at that gateway for over a month now already, considering your options, and as you wonder what it would be like to just take this plunge backward and go like that, and as you move through this golden sea of infinities to reveal for yourself the stacked realities, then I call this the period of everything but not quite. I always have everything but not quite. It's as though everything all of a sudden is on your plate. As though everything all of a sudden becomes a consideration. Everything that you can possibly feel, both positive and negative on the scale, is all happening at once, but not quite. You're sort of down and depressed, but not quite. You're sort of happy that the sun is shining, but not quite. You're sort of this, you're sort of that, you feel this, you feel that, you feel ill, but not quite. You feel well, but not quite. It's all not quite. It's because you are beginning to take back all of this form that, if you remember, the horizon is always at 144, right? Now that means, what does that mean, that the horizon is always at 144? What is the horizon ultimately? The horizon is the circle that you could draw. Let's say that your particle that you are expressing is currently here, and the core is currently here, so you can draw a circle. That is your 144 horizon. So it's under normal circumstances, when you are expressing yourself in the world of form, that horizon is there because it defines the amount of experience and progression and expression, the amount of emotion, therefore the amount of mind, the amount of reality that you can process at a given amount of time, at any given amount. And what I mean with process is the suspension of disbelief boundary, really. And that is where you are now. You're over the suspension of disbelief, because as you are pulling back, albeit a temporary movement that you can keep doing back and forth, as you are pulling back, you are pulling into that 144 horizon that is supposed to be the boundary of your mind, of your emotional range, of your reality, of what you can hear on the news, all of that sort of thing. The things that Ekaraia was talking about at the very beginning of this Creator Manifest, with the spell on humanity hitting every 22 years and that sort of thing. All of that is all being pulled into one moment. The moment that you go, that you pull out. So there is a build-up of everything, and so you are experiencing everything, but not quite. It is sort of, there are people on this earth that had amazing insights into all of these things after taking mushrooms. and one of them is, what's his name again? Help me out here, guys. Terence McKenna, yes. And he always said that there would come a time of novelty hitting such a level of peak that it would overwhelm the experience that any expression of consciousness could possibly have at any time. And that's what I'm talking about. But that is not something that happens collectively. That is what happens when you pull your way out of this place to come up for a breather, let's say, and go into white space training, for instance. And this is why we have always said all of this is also portal travel, bilocation, everything. These are side effects, healing. All of that is a side effect. Because as you pull away, and all of these stacked versions of reality, let's say somebody is here from Sweden today. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to come and talk to you at the end of this. Let's wrap it up, people. No, but seriously. So you're in Sweden. You're in the world of form in Sweden, and you want to be here, and you don't want to travel 12 hours to get here. You take that step back, and here in this overview of all the versions of your reality, you simply step into the version where you are here. And then you are here. That is bilocation, that is portal travel. It's the same with manifesting anything, really, without taking the physical steps in the world of form to do so. Already you are beginning to notice in the development of your consciousness that AI is now coming into your world, and that all of these things are also speeding up in the way you can manifest things. This is all because you're in this process of pulling out, of pulling more experience into your horizon than you can technically process in one go. And that overloads the system. It triggers a suspension of disbelief that occurs now that you can't quite follow what's happening. As I said, it's everything but not quite. Like you're feeling this way, you're feeling that way, but you can't quite follow because it doesn't make sense. You turn on your phone or your TV and you see that, oh, now it's not 3 wars, now it's 4, and now it's 5, and now it's this, and now it's that. It's all coming at you with a shorter and shorter time span because you are pulling yourselves out of here. And that is where the overwhelm is coming from. That is why it is so important to understand this. But you are doing it, and don't forget that. You are doing it so that it becomes possible for you to continue this training in white space, even though the tuition will also continue to happen here. You can work on moving between the world of form and the world of shape while you are working on form, but not when you're going to be moving into the second gateway, which is time, and the third gateway, which is space, and onward. Those are concepts that have to be explored and ultimately practiced in white space, because they are concepts of white space. Form allows those concepts to be experienced in what ultimately is nothing else but a two-dimensional object, the field of Lavat itself, as a three-dimensional space. You see? So anyway, today I was going to talk more about my time with the Essenes. I was also going to pick up more on another important point in history, the time of the Catars. But I guess I'm going to do that another time. Mind you though, everything that I have now shared with you here, word for word, except for maybe the modern examples here and there that I'm giving you, are exactly the same as the conversations that the Essenes or the Catars or many of these other civilizations that we've spoken about would have on a daily basis. And just like you all here and out there, this Imzaia community, just like the Essenes, are now focusing on moving yourselves into a higher version of reality. And don't think that this is about, like, you know, eventually physically stepping out of this reality or anything like that. But no, it is about gaining the ability to step back and forth without ever really leaving your presence here. And it is also why you see that societies like yours, once they hit the Ra point, once they hit the information of Ra coming through like you are now experiencing, eventually all move out of sight, if you will. But only out of sight for those that restrict themselves to the world of form. That is the same journey you are on, basically. And just like the Essenes and the Catars, the Imzaia will be one of those that exist, yet where are they? Do they exist in history? Do they exist in time? Do they exist in space? They are spotted everywhere, but nobody can quite get a handle on it, or a grip on it, or can write a proper history on it, because it has been lifted out of the world of form. Now, from the world of shape, piercing into the world of form in a plethora of ways that you see when you look up stories about beings such as the ones that you are on the way to becoming. And again, this is the natural journey of evolution, that everyone that joins these Ekaraias, except for the ones, as I said at the beginning, that purely come here for the entertainment value, because really, do experience, because really, it may be hard for you to understand, but from the perspective of Homeworld, until somebody hits this piece of artwork and pieces like it, there is absolutely no way anyone would believe it is possible to live like this. It is a mythology. There are literally debates, very conscious debates, going on alternative histories that might explain our home-based society. And until this was created, that debate was very much undecided. Since this has been created, however, not only has it made that debate much more focused, but on top of that, it has increased the amount, if I can say that, of beings that are focusing on the pathway to the one infinite creator, also in home-based reality. And that is ultimately the point. So, thank you all for listening to me. I wanted to give you a bit of an overview from my perspective on what it actually is that you are doing with all of this. And I wanted to do so to make sure that you do not lose your inspiration and your focus with what you are doing and your perspective. Because when you are studying this and when you are called to study this type of metaphysics, you have to look at yourself and come to the conclusion that you can no longer place the same type of value on reality or on the reality of the world of form that you once did before you came into contact with this tuition. Because if you do, then you basically are telling yourself that you are not certain that what is being said here is actually resonating with you. Or you are certain that it resonates with you, but you don't know why. And you worry about those sorts of things. I think that when I spoke about the breaking point, which I could speak about today again, really, that is the breaking point. This can ultimately all be a very interesting theory and a very interesting way to spend your time on the internet for most people. Or it is the truth. It is the heart of your being and the reason why you explore the realities that you do. And that is something I want you to think about. In the next couple of sessions that are coming up, I believe that Kutumi will be here. I also hear that Adamus and Isis are planning to do a co-chaired session, which should be very interesting, a bickering of one couple in one body. I hope that they're still going to step back from that one, but we'll see. Anyway, that's what's coming up next, one way or another, before the continuation of Ra. We hope that at that time you will be ready to proceed to the next gateway, and that white space training and white space access to begin with will have become something that will become part of your normal experience. Again, you are the loves of my lives, all of you. We are all here because of our collective passion and enthusiasm for this journey, this exploration towards the one infinite creator. That is what binds us as one. One heart, one soul, one being. I will see you again soon. I am Jeshua, and I love you. And so it is.